Direct News TV. March 1, 2024. Israel's war on Gaza Enclave's health system on its knees. WHO says Palestinians are risking their lives to find food, water and other supplies amid the unrelenting Israeli assault. Fatalities were reported in Gaza's south after an Israeli raid targeted a house sheltering people who had been displaced from the north. Israeli army needs 7,000 new soldiers, says report. Israeli news outlet Ynet is reporting that the army needs to bolster its personnel and requires 7,000 new soldiers, half of which would be transferred to maintain its war efforts in Gaza. Earlier this week, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said all parts of Israeli society, especially the ultra-Orthodox, to be drafted into the military and referred to it as a matter of national need. To attain the goals of the war, to handle the threats from Gaza, from Lebanon, from Judea and Samaria, and to prepare for the emerging threats from the east, we need unity and partnership in decisions about our future, Gallant said in a news conference on Wednesday. He added that drafting all of society was essential to winning the war, and a national security matter of utmost importance. Egypt's foreign minister says the country hopeful of a Gaza ceasefire deal before Ramadan. Foreign Minister Sami Shoukry says that Egypt is hopeful that talks initiated by Qatar can agree on a cessation of hostilities in Gaza before the start of the upcoming fasting month of Ramadan. We are hopeful that we can reach a cessation of hostilities and exchange of hostages. Everyone recognizes that we have a time limit to be successful before the start of Ramadan, Shoukry said at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum in Turkey. Palestinian Red Crescent teams transport body. The Palestinian Red Crescent ambulance teams transported the body of a killed Palestinian who arrived in the Al-Jafrawi area in Deir el-Bala. The person was killed in an Israeli drone attack targeting a group of civilians in the Al-Khaf area north of Khan Yunis city, an area where Israeli forces are carrying out a targeted military operation. After local elections in Israel, what comes next? While Israelis have been out on the streets protesting against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, his party, Likud, did well in the first elections since the October 7 Hamas attack and subsequent war on Gaza. Al Jazeera's The Take podcast speaks to our correspondent Wilhelm Marx on what Likud's success tells us about Israeli public opinion and the direction of the war ahead. WHO says health system in Gaza on its knees. The World Health Organization, WHO, says people in Gaza are risking their lives to find food, water and other supplies, such is the level of hunger and despair during the Israeli assault on the Strip. The system in Gaza is on its knees. It's more than on its knees, WHO spokesperson Christian Lindmeier told reporters in Geneva. All the lifelines in Gaza have more or less been cut. Lindmeier said this has created a desperate situation, as seen on Thursday when more than 100 people seeking humanitarian aid in Gaza were killed. People are so desperate for food, for fresh water, for any supplies that they risk their lives in getting any food, any supplies to support their children, to support themselves, Lindmeier said. The food supplies have been cut off deliberately. Let's not forget that, he added. India says it is deeply shocked at civilian deaths in Gaza during aid delivery. India says it is deeply shocked at the loss of lives in northern Gaza on Thursday when at least 112 people were killed while waiting for an aid delivery. Such loss of civilian lives and the larger humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to be a cause for extreme concern, the Ministry of External Affairs said in a statement. Israel's military operation has no ethical or legal limits. Brazil has condemned the killings of more than 100 Palestinian aid seekers and says Israel's military operation has no ethical or legal limits. Humanity is failing the civilians of Gaza. And it's time to prevent further massacres, Brazil's foreign ministry said in a statement. Brazil has been vocal in its defense of Palestinians in Gaza throughout the war and has repeatedly called for a ceasefire. Jordan airdrops aid into northern Gaza. The Jordanian army says it has carried out 3 airdrops of food aid in several areas in northern Gaza. Jordan and Egypt have airdropped aid in recent days while the US and Canada said they were considering playing a similar role. Israel's Coordination of Government Activities in the Territories, COGAT, said Jordan airdropped 48 packages of aid. The president of Refugees International, Jeremy Kanindik, said on Thursday that the amount of aid delivered in airdrops is so negligible that it helps perpetuate the overall blockade strategy. Facilitating airdrops and driving media coverage around them gives the public appearance that Israel is cooperating with humanitarian efforts, said Kanindik, who is also a former USAID official. The fact that they need to be considered is a major policy failure. Interesting that Israeli media concerned with slain aid seekers. Mohammed El-Masri, professor of media studies at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies, says there are concerns in Israeli media over what the killing of Palestinian aid seekers will mean for the country's war efforts, and it's interesting that they're concerned. The reality is that until the US changes its position in a meaningful way, this isn't going to be of much consequence on the ground. The reality is that it's been 5 months, and Israel has killed more than 30,000 Palestinians, he told Al Jazeera. This kind of massacre has been perpetrated over and over again. The US hasn't changed its position, and the US holds an awful lot of cards in this situation. Aid agencies call on EU and member states to resume UNRWA funding. 17 international aid agencies have signed a joint statement calling on the European Union and member states to resume funding to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Several European countries stopped funding the aid agency in January after Israel alleged UNRWA members were involved in the October 7 Hamas attack. We urge the EU and member states to take note that other aid agencies cannot replicate UNRWA's central role in the humanitarian response in Gaza, and amidst the current crisis, many will struggle to even maintain their current operations without UNRWA's partnership and support, the statement published by the Norwegian Refugee Council read. UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini welcomed the joint statement on X and said, "Resumption of funding is key to keep the largest humanitarian operation in Gaza uninterrupted plus to keep our schools and health clinics running for Palestine refugees across the region." Latest casualty figures. Gaza. Killed, 30,228. Wounded, 71,377. Occupied West Bank. Killed, 417. Wounded, 4,650. Israel. Killed on October 7. 1,139, revised down from 1,400. Wounded, 1,431. Soldiers killed since the ground invasion, 242. EU Commission to send €50 million to UNRWA. The European Commission says it will disburse €50 million, $54 million, to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, next week. The Commission allocated €150 million, $162.2 million, for 2024 to support the Palestinian population across the region, including €82 million, $87.7 million, of aid to be distributed through UNRWA and €68 million, $73.5 million, through international partners including the Red Cross and the Red Crescent. In a statement, it said it had assessed its funding decision in light of the very serious allegations made on January 24 by Israel implicating several UNRWA staff in the attacks of October 7. UNRWA Commissioner General Philippe Lazzarini had previously warned that internal divisions within the bloc threatened to derail the funds, which would provide a vital financial lifeline for the agency in the coming weeks in light of the suspension of funding on the part of some Western countries. Palestinian Foreign Ministry calls for sanctions on Israel. The Palestinian Foreign Ministry has called for sanctions to be imposed on Israel after the killing of more than 100 Palestinians waiting to receive humanitarian on Thursday. The ministry calls for imposing deterrent sanctions on the Israeli government to compel it to ensure the protection of civilians and secure their humanitarian needs, it said in a press statement. It also accused Israeli PM Netanyahu of being a front for fascist Israeli Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. On Thursday, the ministry said the attack was part of Israel's continuing genocidal war, and called on the international community to urgently intervene to forge a ceasefire as the only way to protect civilians. As Israel strikes all around it, fear rises in Lebanon's Sidon. The streets of Lebanon's third-largest city recall its storied past. Residents navigate the streets and restaurants decorated with the overlapping architectural trends from the Ottoman, Crusader, and Mamluk periods. Ramadan is approaching in early March, but many said it would be hard to celebrate. On top of myriad crises, the town carries an acute awareness that a war is raging just kilometers away. One local journalist who lives just outside Sidon says she used to head to Tyre, a 40-minute drive south down the coast, for a night out, but now simply stays at home. Until now, Sidon has not been attacked directly by Israel's military. But it has been sandwiched by attacks on neighboring towns in recent weeks that have locals worrying about their security. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.